October 18th, are you ready? 2018, Chris McCleary, Daily CIRF Report. And we're looking for the biggest influence still. And for today, I highly recommend that you at least stay for the Dreambot portion. The dreams are seeing something definitely is coming down the pike. If it hasn't already, I think we have some news correlations that might help with identifying what this might be. And well, let's just get right into it. We're going to start with the astrology and numerology. Down here, I'll highlight 18 is about communication, learning. It sounds a lot like Mercury. Oh, look, one of our aspects is Mercury. It's a square though, and squares are kind of contentious here. And the square happens to be with kind of a double whammy, a conjunct moon and Mars in Aquarius. Okay, so kind of an extra strong Mars. What is Mars? It's a brave planet. Mars, all about fighting, the god of war, if you will. So, not that the conjunction is all that bad. I mean, we need to be strong every once in a while. And so this just makes us a little bit extra strong, extra brave, feeling on top of the world, maybe a little manic. And that squares off with Mercury. So negotiation is going to be kind of weird today because your communication probably a little bit more impulsive. You're going to probably see yourself in or have a more egotistical stance if this is if you're under the influence. And I'm not saying that you're swinging all the way over to completely narcissistic and all that. That's not what I'm saying. It's a subtle influence. So you hardly even see it and feel, definitely probably not feel it unless you're really looking for it. So watch out for this kind of power struggle where, you know, maybe before you talk like this, but maybe today you're subconsciously starting to do this. That's kind of what that is. Kind of like, instead of negotiating, like power over that other person. And I'll just leave it at that. All right, I think that's enough. Let's go talk about the Dreambot, Ron. Wow, Dreambot is seeing something that we're not used to. I have two linguistic sets, and I'm going to talk about the second linguistic set first because I think number one is about number two. So two is West Dollar Q final paper. Okay, there's a couple things of what that might mean, and I apologize. I threw this together because I am already kind of behind the time curve here. So I'm kind of winging this part. Not that that's a bad thing, but walk me through what these things could mean. West dollar, there's lots of different kinds of dollars around the world. So West dollar to me means America. So American dollar. There's a Q that it's the final paper. Now I know that there's some agendas out there going towards a cashless society. This could be that meaning. It could also mean that the Treasury and Federal Reserve are going to slow down their paper making and printing. That would make dollars in maybe stronger and worth more. The other thing that I think most of us are probably waiting for is the inevitable demise of the dollar. And because they've been slashing the value of this dollar just constantly, I think that the dollar might be worth like 0.01% of where it initially was in 2013. Now that's the Federal Reserve notes, not even the dollar anymore, really. So anyway, which one of those is it? And I want to highlight these orange arrows while I'm at it because these are assets: gas, paper, dollar. These are just assets. Yes, there is a real gas and you put it into your car, but it's the price of gas is being waged based on paper trading, which may or may not have anything to do with the inventory of the gas that we actually have. So the same thing with gold, same thing with all the assets that we have today. It's not so much whether or not we have a lot of gold or silver or we have little of it. It's about, and not even really supply and demand, it's the supply and demand of the freaking paper behind it. And the paper doesn't necessarily trace back to the amount of gold that's in Fort Knox or wherever it's being held. So this might be the final cue of all those assets, which really is unsustainable. I have a sneeze coming on. Ugh. All right, here we go. Now, number one, the linguistic set number one is about media, seeing, act, and West. I put West in there too because, again, I think this is all have to do with America. There's kind of this this show. Media is basically entertainment, and we'll just throw in some more fear. Now, what's interesting is, and what I didn't talk about with the linguistic set number two, is I have on my phone the latest headlines, and there's a quote. This was New York Times. Quote: "A plan to squeeze China." It's a sub headline, and there's three headlines below that, and one of those is currency manipulation. Oh my gosh, does this not look like currency manipulation? They're talking about China, and I kind of notice when the West media starts to blame other people for manipulating their currency, it's almost like they're projecting ours. We are manipulating our currency. Everyone's manipulating their currency. It's just paper, for God's sakes. But the more important one for today's run is that President Trump plans to withdraw from a 144-year-old agreement that allowed Chinese companies to ship at extremely low costs. So if that happens, and that would be very important headline for a day like today, because it's all about negotiation and contracts, in the astrology at least, and as we'll see here also in the Dreambot. But this also has to do with the money. So if China can't send at rock bottom prices, then you are not going to be able to get your little circuit board equipment for 50 cents in a little package in the mail after about, how long does it take? 3-4 weeks? That will be non-existent. And what's going to happen to Walmart? These prices are probably going to have to rise. We're already on the edge of a breakdown, of a recession. We're seeing the stock market with a whole lot of volatility. It tried to climb yesterday, ended up down. It looks like it's down in the initial hours today, or at least in the forecast. All right, let's get back to the Dreambot and look at the red run, or the red arrows. Persistent, order, afraid, staying, old, optimized, named, continuous, process, deal, and slow. This is very similar to the astrology in terms of negotiating, processes, order, and that sort of thing. And it looks to me like people are afraid of something new, afraid of the apple cart being destroyed. And well, let's go ahead and do the break, and we'll talk about how to orchestrate this. Okay, come back. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks everybody for your support and likes and shares. I love that. I love that other people are getting benefit out of this. So, as the picture implies, we have, the crossing of the hands, these I make a contract, but yet I had my fingers crossed, so I didn't really mean it, or I'm doubling back, or I'm kind of protecting myself just in case this doesn't work out. It's not a good situation, not a good day to do any negotiating. If you can wait, that'd be wonderful. Look for the world stage and look for examples of poor negotiation. It does happen on a daily basis. So if the influence is right, you're going to see just slightly more of these bad negotiations. And what makes a bad negotiation? Anytime you have someone who's trying to power over and use and leverage power to get what they want, this really lends itself in the capitalistic society. Not that this is capitalism, and we call it capitalism, but in reality, it's kind of morphed into corporatism, and whoever's got the most money and the most power. So I wouldn't really necessarily call this capitalism, but even if it was capitalism, the downside is that we do tend to get into these little power ordeals and work each other up until someone wins. But the only time someone wins is when the other one loses. So in real negotiation, both parties get not what they want necessarily, and not something just in the middle, but something that allows both parties to rise and increase their situation, improve. Both parties improve. There has to be a solution in every problem where both parties improve. That's real negotiation. And so today, in today's example, you're going to have people, trying to do this, outpowering each other. So the one fix is, first, if you can get away from big negotiations and contracts, that would be wonderful, probably a good thing. We'll wait until this square is over. If you can't, then you be the one that remembers the true nature of negotiation. And remember, this isn't about self-sacrificing either. That's the same kind of evil. It's staying up level and keeping them level, keeping them eye to eye. Say, I feel kind of you powering over me. If you're ready to talk and negotiate, you can come down to my level. Let's talk civilly. And I'm here if you're ready to do that, but I can't have you towering over me like this. Okay? Or using guilt trip or using other power maneuvers in order to wage and get what they want. So you be the one that not only looks out for their well-being, but you also look out for your well-being too. You don't go through with the contract unless you're at least being improved as well. So both parties improve. You don't improve solely by them being destroyed. That's not negotiation. All right. And then let's look at the dollar. Let's see what the dollar does, because I'm seeing in the world stage, if we're kind of, it just appears that we're on a direct war with China and the rest. I know we've been talking about this for decades, but I bet it's a financial war. We had the plunge protection team destroy Soviet Union, and it broke that apart. I'm wondering if the same thing is happening here, but the world is so interconnected now that when we try to, as a country, try to do this, then they're only going to do this, and we've got ourselves an escalation happening. So it's unfortunate, but it's kind of the way it is, out of our control, unless we can collectively meditate and intend on more harmony. And maybe the leaders listen to the CIRF report and stop trying to use power to get more of what they want, and instead look at what the collective needs together. All right, long-winded. We're at 15 minutes now. Sorry. But it was a very special surf report, so I appreciate you hanging out here. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful October 18th. Go kick some butt. Try not to go negotiate, but if you do, remember, look out for both sides.